जो कि पानी है, और केरोसिन मिट्टी का तेल कम पीछे जाएगा। बड़ी आसानी से आपने सेंट्रीफ्यूज का मॉडल एक पुरानी बॉटल से बनाया।
Troubles by the riverside. Get your painted pony on a spinning wheel ride. Someone's waiting just for you.
Chinese spacewalk. A bubble rises in the pool. Complete fraud. Here the helmet gets hit on the International Space Station and a bubble rises into the pool. And here on the International Space Station, they once even got caught with a scuba tank in space. It's ridiculous that they get away with this shit.
to show is that it can't be curvature because there's no curvature on the horizontal axis. And what I want to show is that this is perfectly consistent with perspective. This is exactly what we would see. So here we go. Okay, a little something of how perspective works. See the red and the yellow line. The yellow line is your eye height. The red is the ground plane. And the ground angles up. It visually angles up to your eye level. It's on a trajectory. So the way perspective works on a flat plane is that where that intersects, the ground plane and your eye plane intersect, is where the horizon will form, because that's as far as you can see. You know what I mean? The ground comes up like a big wall. It's a big ramp. And when it gets to your eye level, you can't see any further. You cannot see any more ground, or in this case, any more water. You can see beyond it, but the bottom portions of things are blocked from view. So that's the reality of our vision. Wow, look how that water ramps up to your eye level and it forms a wall. Incredible, zooming in on that horizon. Notice the buildings behind it, the lower portion is blocked. That's due to perspective. To explain this illustration briefly, when they say they see curvature when they're looking at the buildings, and they're saying because the lower parts disappear, they're calling that curvature. That would be on the z-axis. That's from our eyes to the horizon and beyond. On the x-axis, these are the two that we're concerned with, the z and the x. The x-axis is the horizon, or our horizontal axis. And the x-axis is the one that we don't see any curvature on. They claim to see it on the z, but they say, oh, you can't see it on the x. Well, you should and you must see it on the x, and yet we do not. Okay, here we are looking over the bay. I have it mocked up here so you can, I have the x, y, and z axis, and I got a line across the horizon. And you'll notice I have a guy over there on the right-hand side of the screen, and he's looking across to the left. So the point of this is that here we are looking across this patch of water, and the guy on the beach here says he sees curvature because the building's way off in the horizon. Once you zoom in, the lower parts disappear, so he's claiming curvature on the z-axis. Yet we take this guy over here to the right, and let's say he's doing the same exact thing. He's looking across the same patch. And let's say he's doing the same exact thing. He's looking across the same patch of water, and he sees buildings off in the distance, and the lower portions disappear, and he's claiming curvature. Now, his z-axis is our x-axis. See what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do here in a second is I'm going to zoom in on this whole, the zoomed out shot of the horizon, and we're going to scan it from right to left, and we're going to show that there's no curvature on the x-axis. Yet there should be curvature, and there must be curvature on the x-axis, because that would be someone else's z-axis. Like, for instance, if he's looking at our z-axis, that's his horizontal axis.
conducted what's known as the Michelson-Morley experiment. This experiment was attempting to prove the speculated motion of the Earth around the Sun, and when it failed, Albert Einstein was forced to form the theory of relativity to overcome this problem. In fact, anytime mainstream science is faced with undesirable results, they create a workaround, which isn't real science at all.
NASA's next spacecraft, already being built and tested across America, will do those things and more.
This spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA in exploration.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
A rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go, and this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
We are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
How is circumnavigation possible on a flat Earth?
Very easily. You can travel east and west directions to ultimately end up right back where you started. The face of the Earth looks similar to that of a clock. In fact, clocks were most likely designed after the true appearance of our world. If you follow a compass east for long enough, you'll make a full circuit. Same thing if you travel west long enough. As we've already gone over, the flat Earth map that was around before globes were easily converts to a globe, so everything you believe you are doing on a globe is actually taking place on a flat Earth.
Down in the southern hemisphere.
This is another very simple explanation. When somebody is in the northern part of the Earth, or on the northern part of the Earth, they see the moon from this angle. When somebody is on the southern part of the Earth, the moon looks like this. They're looking at it from this angle. They see it from the opposite angle, and that's all it is. Imagine you tape a picture of the moon in the center of your living room, right? Depending on where you are in the room, the moon will be seen differently. When pondering this question, keep in mind that the face of the moon never changes. On a spherical Earth, we'd expect to see other sides, but we never have.
What about the seasons?
The sun is close and small, and it circles around and above the flat Earth in a spiral pattern on the Tropic of Cancer in the northern summer months, and then down in the Tropic of Capricorn in the northern winter months. So when the sun is further away from the North Pole, right, the center of the flat Earth, it's winter in the north and summer in the south. Since the sun is smaller than we are told and closer, it makes much more sense that we experience seasons in the first place. If the sun was 93 million miles away and had a radius of over 400,000 miles, we would hardly experience temperature fluctuation as we do.
What about gravity?
Gravity is necessary in order for a spinning ball Earth to work. People readily believe that you can't fall off of a spinning ball that's darting through outer space at speeds that you can't even comprehend, yet they will deny how much easier it is to stay on a flat surface that doesn't move. Gravity is a scapegoat for all that cannot be explained, and it has never been proven. The reason why things fall or float is because of density and buoyancy. If something is heavier than air, it falls. If it's lighter than air, it floats. Very straightforward. Your phone is denser than the air, therefore it falls when you drop it. Everything works because of density. No need to factor in imaginary components. Quote, "The law of gravitation is said by the advocates of the Newtonian system of astronomy to be the greatest discovery of science and the foundation of the whole of modern astronomy. If, therefore, it can be shown that gravitation is a pure assumption and an imagination of the mind only, that it has no existence outside of the brains of its expounders and advocates, the whole of the hypotheses of this modern so-called science fall to the ground as flat as the surface of the ocean, and this most exact of all sciences, this wonderful feat of the intellect, becomes at once the most ridiculous superstition and the most gigantic imposture to which ignorance and credulity could ever be exposed." Thomas Winship, Zetetic Cosmogony.
What about the Coriolis effect?
They say that the Coriolis effect is a result of the Earth spinning and is responsible for the deflection of an object moving above the Earth, rightward in the northern hemisphere and leftward in the southern hemisphere. The problem is that things like hurricanes and water in the sink aren't always predictable and have been known to spin both ways in either hemisphere. Also, another contradiction that proves the Coriolis effect false is the fact that no flying machine above the Earth has to account for it. If a bullet that travels 1,700 miles per hour has to account for the effect, then an airplane traveling at 550 miles per hour would definitely have to account for the effect. Told that since the atmosphere moves with the spin of the Earth, planes aren't affected. So why would bullets be, especially when they go much faster than common airplanes?
Flat Earth Proof 1. The level. It is the natural physics of water to find and maintain a level surface. So then, all bodies of water should conform to the curvature of the Earth. That is, if the Earth is indeed a ball. Any body of water conforming to the curvature would therefore exhibit a distinctive bulge in its center. For instance, a lake 6 miles across would form a measurable mound of water in its center 6 feet high. Next time you're at a lake or at the ocean, keep an eye out for this obviously unobservable fact. Further non-curvature of the water's surface is the reflection of the moon in water. If the Earth were a ball and the moon in front of you, her reflection would be off the side of the curved water facing away from you, and therefore you wouldn't even see the lunar reflection. You would only see the moon's reflection if she were directly above or behind you, and it would appear as a spotlight on the water. Only on a flat plane does the reflecting light form in a straight line from horizon to observer. The surface of water is but one issue. Based on the claim that Earth is a spinning ball hurtling through space at such immense speeds, factoring in the many wobbles caused by asteroids, comets, and the like, such obviously consistently level surfaces should not even exist. So, leaving the water's surface aside, did you know that it is a fundamental fact that surveyors, engineers, and architects never factor in the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects? Canals, railroads, tunnels, and bridges are all cut and laid horizontally, never allowing for any curvature, often over hundreds of kilometers. One surveyor of 30 years published in the Birmingham Weekly Mercury, "All our locomotives are designed to run on what may be regarded as true levels or flats. There are, of course, partial inclines or gradients here and there, but they are always accurately defined and must be carefully traversed.
Line, especially at the beginning of the picture and at the end, or the right side of the picture, that's where they say you'll see curvature. So we look and we have, I put a little gap between the line and the horizon, and there we go, looks perfect. Okay, and we're going to maintain that gap all the way across. You know, I can't believe they try to get away with this. You know, they say you can't see curvature, but then they see the building's lower portions disappearing and they yell curvature. But here we are. Here's the horizon. Nice long patch of horizon, and let's look at the end. Perfect. Not an ounce of curvature. Okay, a word about zooming in with a telescope. There are people that think that I've spoken to that if you use a telescope, your horizon will be further. The stronger the telescope, the further the horizon will move away from you. Well, that's not the case. The horizon is determined and formed by the ground visually angling up to your eye level. As you see in the beginning of the video here, where he's zooming in across the water, you can see a horizon form, and then as he keeps zooming in, the horizon doesn't get further away, the horizon gets closer and it gets bigger. He's zooming in on the horizon. That horizon is formed whether you're looking at it with the naked eye or a telescope. All of the telescope allows you to do is to see it larger. See this picture on the top here? If the lines were parallel and perspective wasn't a reality, then yeah, the stronger the telescope, you could just see parallel to the ground. But the fact is, perspective causes the ground to visually angle up. And where that intersects is your horizon, and it's regardless of whether or not you're using a telescope. They angle to the eye level of the observer. This image is a product of our eyes. These are horizontal parallel lines, yet we see them not as parallel, but on an angle towards a point in the distance. Now, of course, we know that they are parallel, but they visually are not. Here you can see parallel lines made up of bricks on the walls. The wall on the left, though, is headed out towards the horizon, and all the lines angle toward the eye level of the observer. The bottom ones angle up and the top ones angle down. This is a great illustration of how all the lines angle to your eye position. You can't deny it. All of the lines converge at a center point on the horizon called the vanishing point. Parallel lines above it angle down, the lines below angle up, the sides angle in. The vanishing point is the intersection of the horizontal and vertical axis of our eye position. It's parallel all the way out, parallel with the ground. That's why I say you can't look down at the horizon, because the horizon angles up to your eye level. The two, your eye level and the ground plane, are parallel all the way to the horizon, but it's the bottom ground plane that angles up to your eye level. Okay, here's a new slide. Here's a guy sitting in the middle of the ocean. You can see the water angles up on each side of him to our eye level. It actually angles all the way around him. Just like looking down that long hallway, the floor angles up to your eye position, the ceiling angles down, the walls angle in. That's perspective. Here's another one with the guy in the boat. Whether he's in the hallway or out on the ocean, the ground plane angles up to your eye position. And so you can't see any ground past that point once it intersects with your eye height. So items or objects will be blocked, especially the ground, and then lower portions of objects beyond the horizon will have their bottoms blocked from view. And here's another one. You can see the water ramp up to the eye level, and the building beyond the horizon has its lower portions obscured. It's kind of like putting your thumb out at arm's length and putting it level with your eyes. You can block things much bigger than your thumb. That's due to perspective. And the same happens here. The further away that building is, the more of it gets blocked, starting from the bottom up. Okay, that concludes the first part, dealing with that there's no curvature on the x-axis or the horizontal axis. Now I want to talk about the thin horizon, the fact that the horizon has no depth, and how that is completely consistent with perspective on a flat plane, and not consistent with a sloping ball and the horizon being a product of that curvature. It goes really fast. He doesn't stay there very long. I make a still of that too. I blow it up and you can check it out. Here's another zoom. Okay, check out the choppiness and the shallowness of the horizon. Okay, person who recorded that zoomed in so quick, I wish he would have stayed on the horizon a little longer. So anyway, I made a still of the horizon. Here it is. You can see that's, you can definitely see sky between those waves. Really funny how it's as if the horizon just stops. I mean, the ground plane angles up, and when it intersects with your eye position, it stops. I mean, you can see right between the waves. It's as if it's one layer of waves, right? Look how you can see the sun between those big gaps between the waves. If that horizon were the result of a very gradual curvature, the horizon would be much thicker and much denser. You wouldn't have that kind of definition within the waves. Okay, see the people on the boat? They're just a layer of people, one layer, and see how they look like the horizon? It's as if the horizon is very thin and it just drops off. It's kind of blurred out, but you can see the upward trajectory and then the thin horizon. There's no depth to the horizon. It's as if it stops, and it does. Perspective would dictate that the ground visually angle up to your eye position, and when it does that, it stops. You know, you can't see any more ground behind it. You can see things beyond it, but you can't see the ground. And notice how the waves can block several floors. I mean, 4, 5, 6 stories of those buildings. And the further away the buildings are, the more of them gets blocked. It's like holding your thumb out at arm's length. You can block things much bigger than your thumb. Again, here, notice the thin horizon. It's very choppy. You can see through it. You can see between the waves. And notice on the right-hand side how when the water splashes up in the air, it falls back down on the water and it's obscured by the horizon. Again, that thin horizon is strong evidence that we're on a plane and this is perspective because of the fact that the horizon just drops off. It stops. It ramps up to your eye level and stops. Here's a zoom in.
There it is. There's the world.
The door has opened. The door has opened.
The door stop, Felix.
Door is open. Door stop is engaged.
Okay, item 26. Move seat to the rear of capsule. Item 27. Lift legs into the door to the rear. There it is. There's the world out there.
The door has opened.
Roll the door open.
The door has opened.
The door stop, Felix.
Door is open. Door stop is engaged.
Okay, item 26. Move seat to the rear of capsule. Item 27. Lift legs into the door threshold.
Legs are at the threshold.
Item 28. Slide the seat forward. Okay, item 29. Release seat belt. Item 29, Felix. Release the seat belt. Attaboy. That's good. Slide forward into the rest position. Go a little bit further.
Water, when unmanipulated, is to find its level. So whether you look at a cup of water, a bathtub, a swimming pool, a lake, or the ocean, it's flat. Of course, natural motion is not considered and doesn't equal a curve. We have 0 authentic pictures of the Earth and they're all composites, and NASA even admits that they Photoshop Earth images.
It is Photoshopped, but it's has to be.
On numerous occasions, NASA admits that we can't go beyond low Earth orbit, which is between 99 miles and 1,200 miles away. The interesting thing is that the moon is said to be 238,000 miles away, which is a difference of 236,800 miles. A building, a mountain, a hot air balloon, an airplane, or looking at high-altitude amateur balloon footage, the horizon never fails to rise right to your eyes.
Flat southern France at 194 feet is visible from a boat approximately 10 feet above sea level from 28 miles away. At this distance on the ball Earth, the light should be hidden behind 190 feet of curvature. Inland is 150 feet above sea level and visible from 35 miles, where it should be below 490 feet of curvature. Of St. Botolph's Parish Church in Boston is 290 feet tall and visible from over 40 miles, where it should be hidden below a full 800 feet of curvature. The Isle of Wight Lighthouse in England is 180 feet high and can be seen up to 42 miles away, where it should be below 996 feet of curvature. The Cape Lagulhas Lighthouse in South Africa is 33 feet high, 238 feet above sea level, and can be seen for over 50 miles, where it should be below 1,400 feet of curvature. The Statue of Liberty in New York stands 326 feet above sea level, and on a clear day can be seen as far as from 60 miles away. At that distance on the ball Earth, Lady Liberty would be an impossible 2,074 feet below the curvature. The lighthouse at Port Said in Egypt, at an elevation of only 60 feet, has been seen an astonishing 58 miles away, where it should be below 2,182 feet of curvature. Some other examples include the base of the Isle of Wight, where water and land meet, forming a perfectly straight line 22 statute miles long. On the ball Earth, the Isle of Wight should decline 80 feet from the center on each side to conform to the curvature. However, the crosshairs of good theodolites have repeatedly shown the waterline to be perfectly level. And on a clear day from the highland near Douglas Harbor on the Isle of Man, the whole length of the coast of North Wales is often plainly visible to the naked eye. The 50-mile stretch has also repeatedly been found to be horizontal. On the ball Earth, however, the 50-mile Welsh coast would decline from the center a stark 416 feet on either side. In regards to distances over land, the Philadelphia skyline is clearly visible from Apple Pie Hill in New Jersey 40 miles away. Factoring in the 205-foot elevation of Apple Pie Hill, the Philadelphia skyline should be well hidden behind 335 feet of curvature. The New York City skyline is clearly visible from Bear Mountain 60 miles away. Despite factoring in the 1,283-foot summit of Bear Mountain, the New York City skyline should still remain invisible behind 170 feet of curvature. The Chicago skyline can often be seen from sea level 60 miles away from across Lake Michigan. When Joshua Nowitzki photographed this phenomenon, several news channels quickly claimed his picture was of a superior mirage. Although these do occur, the mirage will always appear upside down and somewhat hazy. Despite the photograph showing otherwise, their model insists that the Chicago skyline hides behind 2,400 feet of curvature. From Anchorage, Alaska, on a clear day, at an elevation of 102 feet, Mount Foraker can be seen by the naked eye. At 120 miles away, the summit should be leaning away from the observer and hidden by 7,719 feet of ball Earth, when in reality the entire mountain, from base to summit, can be seen standing upright. Another example from Anchorage, Alaska, is Mount McKinley. At 130 miles away on the ball Earth, the 20,320-foot summit should be leaning away from the observer and almost half covered by 9,220 feet of curved Earth. But just like Mount Foraker, Mount McKinley is always seen standing straight up and visible from base to summit. From Genoa, Italy, at a height of just 70 feet above sea level, the island of Gorgona can often be seen at 81 miles away. On the ball Earth, however, Gorgona should be hidden behind 3,332 feet of curvature. Also from Genoa, the island of Corsica can often be seen at 99 miles away. On the ball Earth, Corsica should be hidden behind 5,245 feet, almost a mile of curvature. A third instance from Genoa is the island of Capraia. At 102 miles away, on the ball Earth, Capraia should be hidden behind 5,605 feet. That's over a mile of curvature. And lastly, if you stuck around this long, a fourth and final example from Genoa is the island of Elba, seen from an incredible 125 miles away. At that distance, on the ball Earth, Elba should be forever invisible behind 8,770 feet of water, which is well over a mile of supposed curvature. Earth Proof 4: The Horizon. No matter where you go on our vast Earth, the horizon will always appear as a perfectly level line, 360 degrees all around you. This is true regardless of altitude. In fact, as you gain altitude, the horizon appears to maintain its height at eye level, despite the ground receding beneath you into the distance. If Earth were in fact a ball, then as you rose up, the horizon would appear to descend beneath you, appearing as a circle, getting smaller progressively as you rose up. But in reality, the horizon is always at eye level, no matter how high you go, which really only indicates one thing: an outstretched plane. The Earth is flat, and we've been had. An outstretched plane. The Earth is flat, and we've been had. Flat Earth Proof 5: Solar Rays. It's not uncommon to see sun's rays shining through the clouds at diverging angles, but after tracing these rays back to their source, it becomes apparent that the sun is not millions of miles away. Otherwise, all the rays would appear parallel. Rather, the sun is shown to be relatively close to the Earth, just above the clouds. Further demonstrating that the distance traveled by sunlight is not in the millions of miles is the fact that if the heat of the sun were indeed traversing the 93 million miles as claimed by modern science, then the stark difference in the sun's ability to heat the tropics versus the polar regions of this alleged relative speck shouldn't even exist, as the distance to the polar regions from the equator is just a mere 0.00004% further, or just 1/25,000th of the distance. Of course, Copernicus, Kepler, and Newton all came to various conclusions regarding the distance to the sun, not even coming near the 93 million miles as claimed by modern science. The real truth is that the number has astronomically increased, pun intended, as more and more precise instruments have failed to measure any stellar parallax.
Put these on. Hey! Stay away from me! I'm telling you, you dumb son of a... I'm trying to save you and your family's life. You couldn't even save your own! I'm giving you a choice. Either put on these glasses or start eating that trash can. Not this year. Okay. All right. Okay. Come on. Come on. I don't want to fight you. Come on. I don't want to fight you. Stop it. No. Put on the glasses. Now hold on.
You ain't the first son of a bitch to wake up out of their dream.